Welcome everyone to Tea and Talk. My name is Leslie Thompson. I am Director of Adult Programs at the Sid Richardson Museum. I want to welcome you to today's virtual version of our Tea and Talk program. And before we get started, I want to start us off with how I start all of our public programs, which is with what's called a land acknowledgement. And a land acknowledgement, for viewers who are not familiar, is just a way to pay tribute to the original inhabitants of the land that we're on. And since we're all in different places and different locales today, I'm just going to speak to the general area where we are. So we, the Sid Richardson Museum, respectfully acknowledge all Native American peoples who have lived on this land since time immemorial. And the Sid would especially like to acknowledge and pay respect to the Wichita and affiliated tribes upon whose historical homeland our museum, the Sid Richardson Museum, is located. So today, in addition to members of the Sid Richardson Museum staff, we also have a special guest with us today. So I'm going to do a quick introduction of each person. And when I do, if you'll just raise your hands so everyone knows who I'm talking about. So I'll go in order of my screen. So on top, I see Renee Green, who is our administrative assistant at the Sid Richardson Museum. And then below me is Shelby Orr. She is Director of School and Family Programs at the Sid Richardson Museum. Then below her is Scott Winterroad, who is our Director at the Sid Richardson Museum. Below him is Betsy Thomas. She is Director of Education Resources at the Sid Richardson Museum. And then at the bottom, we have Amanda Blake, our special guest, who is Director of Education, Library, and Visitor Services at the Amon Museum of American Art here in Fort Worth, Texas. So thank you everyone for joining. I'm gonna quickly review, for those viewers who are not familiar with Tea and Talk, this is a program that we host at the museum the first Wednesday of every month throughout the school year. And it is a program that really provides us with an opportunity to slow down our art viewing experience, really take a visual deep dive into one work of art. The average museum visitor spends 10 to 15 seconds with a work of art if you're lucky. And that includes myself as well. When I visit a museum, sometimes I speed through pretty quickly. So Tea and Talk is a chance for us to just pause, take a breath, and just really look at one work of art. Normally for this program at the museum, we allot about 30 minutes to look at one work of art, but for the sake of the virtual experience, I'm going to limit us down to 10 minutes. And I have on the screen here, we have an image of one of the paintings that's currently on display in our museum. And of course, while it is nice to have a digital reproduction like we have here, that's good quality to look at for the sake of this program, obviously it does not even compare to looking at the real thing. There's just so many details that you miss when you're just looking at a screen. But obviously we don't have any choice right now. So this is kind of the next best thing. And with that being said, let's go ahead and look at this painting together. I'm going to save the artist and title for the end of the conversation, just so I don't influence our looking or our bias or looking in any way. But let's just have a conversation together for the next 10 minutes and share observations. So as you're looking at this painting, go ahead and share one thing that you noticed.
Well, I'm struck by the artist's use of the color red and how red is sort of throughout and how it's placed strategically to keep your eye moving around the painting and catching all the details from the horse in the back to the man in the front. And it helps you realize that they're all kind of looking the same direction, just continued by the brushwork of the trees.
Yeah, I like that. So you're picking up on his his little uses, little touches of this bright red that he's placed throughout kind of the main characters of this painting. Yeah. What else do you notice?
When she commented on that and on the movement of the brushwork and the trees and the way it kind of directionally moves your eye, I noticed just that I'm not real sure what's happening in the background. Like, are they standing in front of a rock? And what's the recession of space? It gets really kind of confusing right behind the group of people. And I'm not sure exactly what's happening back there because I feel like there's trees that move into the distance at the far left, but then I'm not sure what's happening in the kind of center of the composition.
Yeah. So we're having some confusion about what is immediately behind these figures in the front.
Mm-hmm.
What else do you notice?
I'm immediately kind of drawn to first the main figure in the foreground with the red bandana with his arm out, and then the men behind him who also have their faces covered, and looking what they're doing with their guns and masks.
So your eye is first drawn to that main figure, yeah, with the bandana, and then his arm kind of stretches out behind him. That kind of leads your eye to his assistants behind him. Yeah,
I can't help but think that they're going to the grocery store, right?
Yes, it's very appropriate for right now.
Keeping it relevant.
I can't help but notice, it looks like with his arm back here that he has, it's sort of like there's something alarming that they need to be cautious of. So you see this man, maybe loading his gun, but they all seem pretty relaxed. Like it's like they're listening, but they're not they don't look scared or anything like that to me.
Yeah, what makes you say that?
Like he's leaning forward, thinking of like maybe more out of curiosity about what's around the corner. But I don't see his body language being of like a any sort of fright or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like this is not the first time maybe that they're dealing with something like this.
Yeah. So you're noticing that despite the kind of the gesture of the figure in the front alerting them to something, that the figures in the back seem a little more subdued, calmer than what the situation might require.
Yeah, they don't have their guns at the ready. It's kind of looking like he's saying, wait, hold on. And they're looking towards the back at what's coming.
Yeah.
For me, that's what draws me is what is the gentleman in the front, what is he looking at? What are they waiting there? Obviously, he's seeing the stagecoach coming. So my eye goes, of course, initially to them, and then what are they looking at, which is obviously the stagecoach and horses.
Yeah. So you're noticing, you first noticed him, and then you see what he's doing, that he's looking somewhere, and that leads your eye back there. And so you've now noticed the stagecoach in the background. Yeah. What else do you notice?
It's funny because where they're positioned, it seems like they're really high up from the road where the stagecoach might be coming. And also they're kind of in a difficult spot with all those fallen trees. So I mean, if they're waiting for them to come, it just seems like they're not in the best position to get to them.
Yeah, it seems like they're on a cliff. I think I'm reading the background as rocks. But the tree, the broken tree in the front, and the limb that appears to be coming out of the rock leads your eye directly to the road, and you notice the stagecoach. But it almost makes me wonder how long they've been waiting there, perhaps hiding.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if it slopes down to the viewer's right enough for them to kind of hop into the road, or how high up are they? Because like Scott said, it doesn't seem like the best vantage to get onto the road, but maybe they're just checking things out.
Yeah. So there's a lot of confusion and questioning about their selection of location, and exactly like the depths between where they are and the road, what that connection is. Yeah.
For me also, the gentleman that is loading his shotgun, that adds a little bit of an extra danger element because they're not just holding shotguns. He's loading his, you know, they're loaded, they're ready to do whatever they need. That to me adds a little bit of an extra element of danger to see him in the process of loading the shotgun.
Yeah. So it looks like based on him, if he had not been loading his gun, maybe it would feel a little more relaxed, but him loading adds a little bit of tension as the maybe implying there's some intended action that's going to take place.
Yeah.
As I look at the figure group, I just noticed the detail and the line work that kind of defines each figure and that front lead horse in the background. Whereas everything else in the painting is very light in terms of its touch, and it's very much these kind of patchy washes. And I see that, and I think it also lends to that confusion I have about the background, those kind of patchy translucent washes that I see throughout this, because of course this work is a watercolor.
Yeah. So you're noticing how the artist has paid much more attention to detail in application of his brushwork too with the figures than he has with the background. The background seems more just adjusted.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the rendering of that boot, even, I mean, doesn't seem like it should be that detailed, but yeah, he's kind of like fussy over all the line work here, but everything else is just sort of, you're right, washed.
I'm incredibly impressed by the bandana too.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I'm like really drawn to that, like the attention to detail on that bandana, the folds, and even trying to get like the paisley pattern. I'm like, that for a tiny little area, that's really impressive.
Yeah, I love all those details and the juxtaposition of those with the very sketchy brushwork of the trees and the ground even. It's a really nice comparison in one painting.
Yeah.
My favorite is that tree at the very top, that faint background, kind of gnarly tree. It's very Russell-like, but it's very shaded. Oh, I just gave away who the artist is, sorry. But it's also written on the lower left, so. But I love that kind of ghost tree up there at the very top middle. That's really kind of beautiful.
Is it this one, Scott?
Actually, to the left, that other right there, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which kind of mimics the kind of ghost weeds or the little growing down at the bottom right.
Yeah.
That just kind of draws your eyes towards that is perhaps the roadway that the wagon will be trailing on.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything's very directional. I mean, it's almost that log leads us right to the road. Everything kind of leads our eye to the storytelling moment of the piece.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, all the log that he's stepping over, then that branch that's coming out of that cliff parallels the angle of the road, and then of course lines up with where he's looking, even with his arm too, how he's stretched his arm out back.
And his
all
rifle.
Of those lines.
Yeah.
And that rifle too.
Oh yeah.
Everything extends.
Yeah. That's a good point.
He's so plotted and so careful. I don't think I realized until we started doing these, and we've done a lot of Russell lately, strangely.
Yeah.
Also, the way he creates that background shadow of the coat between the legs of the foreground figure, and then he carries that shadow over into the rocks. There's just this really careful way of casting the way he wants you to read the characters with the way he's composed the picture.
Yeah.
Same with the man who's wearing all black. You can see his leg, the shadow of his leg kind of peeking out behind the man loading his gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cut us off there. We've hit our 10-minute mark already. But I mean, obviously, as you can see, there's a lot more we could talk about. The story just kind of keeps on going. So this is just a little teaser of what you can experience with slowing down and really looking at a work of art. And also, this is, I hope, for viewers, a really good model to show how, you know, during this time of physical distancing, how we can kind of come together virtually and have a shared experience over, in this case, a work of art. And really also how the experience of a work of art changes when you share that with all these different people, and how each person really brings something unique to the conversation, which is what I love so much about Tea and Talk. It really depends so much on who's participating, and what they have to bring to the conversation. That really, for me, it brings the painting to life. Like I look at this painting in a whole new way now after just this 10-minute conversation, and I think that's really beautiful. But we would love to keep the conversation going. So for viewers who are watching this video, we'd love to hear your thoughts about this painting. If there are observations that you're noticing that you want to share, go ahead and put them in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. So, but with that, thank you everyone for joining us for Tea and Talk today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.